Hey you, do you like the Tales from the Crypt series? Do you like spooky things in general? Then check out the Good Evening Kiddies podcast. That's Good Evening Kiddies podcast. GOODEVENING KIDDIES podcast. Each week, I'll review a new episode from the TV series The Tales from the Crypt. Find me on Podbay, Podbean, or iTunes. That's the Good Evening Kiddies podcast. Check it out today.
I'm going to be lazy. Lean back.
I hear you, bro. Embrace the lazy.
Yeah, I've been up since 4:30. Not as quite as impressive as you, but...
I was like, yeah, I wasn't going to say it.
He was thinking it, but he wasn't going to say it. So, Dan, what'd you get from Taco Bell?
5-layer burrito and a cheesy roll-up.
And if you got a 5-layer burrito and a cheesy roll-up from Taco Bell, then you are ready for this episode of Discography Discussion. I am Joe. That is Dan. That is Jeff. And that is Melissa.
Hi.
Hi, Melissa.
Hi.
Hey, Melissa, what's up?
Not too much. I'm here to promote my podcast.
Sweet.
That you heard at the beginning of the episode.
You mean you're not here to talk about Poison the Well?
I'm not sure how much I can contribute, but I'm fun, and I'm a musician. I'm a drummer. So.
There you go.
Well, all right, you're going to have to hang out and just, crack a bunch of jokes with us. I know Jeff is very talented at cracking jokes, especially over Skype.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
he is.
That's because Joe can't, turn around and hit me with something.
Yeah.
It's great.
Now, here's the real question.
So
if I do
fair
censor
warning,
you
Melissa.
over Skype, do I have to then make the audio beep sound as though it's coming over Skype as well?
Possibly. Or you could just, not beat me. That works, too.
But I want to beat you, Jeff.
Beep. Beep, beep, Richie.
Oh, I thought there was beating involved on this one.
Oh, no, that's why I'm on Skype, so you can't.
Cool.
So who are we talking about this week, Dan?
Poison the well.
Poison the Well.
As in somebody poisoned the water hole.
Somebody's
in my
poisoned the water hole.
Yeah, Poison the Well. One of my favorite bands, definitely in my top 10.
Really, that high?
Yeah, dude, I really like Poison the Well. They were formative for me as a, whatever you want to call, screaming singer person. They were...
Kind of like a hardcore / punk kind of...
Yeah, a little bit of that hardcore, a little bit of emo type of...
Yeah.
Type of stuff, but not if you look at when these records released, it was kind of done at a time where that wasn't lame.
Yeah, they were definitely a product of the year that they were released. A lot of the bands in 2009, 2010, all the way even through 2014, it was still, let's sound like Hope's Fall. Let's sound like He Is Legend. Let's sound like, all those bands. And it just kind of blended together. I definitely got a Hope's Fall vibe off them early, but then, they got a little atmospheric later, which I will definitely be entering Jeffrey's atmosphere when the time is right.
Well,
I think I might pull a fast one on you there, because, yeah.
didn't care for the later records, huh?
No, I did not.
I had a feeling. I'm a little impartial, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Tonight, though, I would like to focus on our guest for the time being.
Hi.
This is Melissa. Melissa is a really good friend of ours, and she has a brand new podcast out called Good Evening Kiddies podcast, and that's kitties as in children, not kitties as in kitty cats.
I'm not talking to cats at night.
I mean, you do talk to cats at night.
I do. Yeah.
I've seen it happen. I can
have
vouch.
But no, it's basically something I started working on back in June, and I dropped it, I think, at the beginning of September. But it's basically a review of the Tales from the Crypt series, and I take each episode and kind of go through it and kind of chronologically review it and have a few audio clips and things like that. And I also talk about the special puns that the Crypt Keeper has, and I plan on doing the movies too, and maybe even throwing in... I've recently bought a portable podcast recorder.
Oh, cool.
And
I need to get one of those.
I'm thinking of doing
on
scary movie reviews, going to the theater and kind of doing a few different things.
That's cool.
On the side,
yeah,
but
that sounds like fun.
Yeah, definitely check it out. It's I think we're just getting ready to finish season 1 right now, so next week's episode will I'm actually on it. Mike did it with me. for
Okay,
this last one,
awesome.
so yeah.
Can't wait to hear that.
Yeah. So
It is definitely the season for some scary movies, and Tales from the Crypt is one of those things that I remember. It wasn't scary, but I felt like it was supposed to be.
It had its moments.
It took me years to figure out that this all came from comic books that were kind of, tongue-in-cheek scary.
yeah, from the 50s, the EC comics.
Like, it wasn't about the fact that the guy knocked out two people and swapped their heads. It was about, I knocked you out and swapped your heads.
Yeah, there's definitely like a big wink, I think, to a lot of it.
Oh yeah.
And I loved Tales from the Crypt. Actually, the comic series was my first introduction to Tales from the Crypt, which was really cool. Watching episodes of the show and them correlating to the comic, because the comic series is extremely old as far
Very
as I
old.
know.
Yeah,
And
it was the 50s. I think
yeah,
52.
so seeing them kind of like more modernized, modern for when Tales of the Crypt was out, but I thought it was really cool. I thought it was really cool how it was funny, but there was some it was funny in the sense that everybody says that they have a dark sense of humor, but I think without stuff like Tales from the Crypt, we wouldn't all be that way.
Yeah, and for me, it was more, when I was a kid, I was a little more of a scaredy cat when it came to Halloween, and the Crypt Keeper used to freak me out. Just how his puppetry was so cool. Just how they have 4 different remotes just for his mouth. Mm-hmm. So it's all this different stuff. And so I would be good through the episode, and then I'd be like, oh my gosh, he's coming, and just I couldn't look at the beginning or the end. But yeah, so that's why I've seen all the episodes. I love it, and I decided to start the Good Evening Kiddies podcast, since he's always good evening kiddies,
right?
And things like that. So
nice.
Yeah, so it's pretty fun so far.
Do you remember that kids relay show that was kind of a rip-off of Legends of the Hidden Temple that had the Crypt Keeper in it? I can't remember the name of it, but it was I'm going to be, in his maze, and he's going to crush us, and then this giant wall would move.
Yeah, I do talk about that a little in the first episode. I kind of do a brief history on it. But yeah, it ended up spinning off into, there were a few Crypt Keeper cartoons that were a little more focused on
I was going to
kids.
ask you that about the Crypt Keeper cartoon series. Yeah,
Tales from the Crypt Keeper. That was
Yeah.
actually my favorite. I love that fucking show.
And then there was also a Christmas album.
Okay.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, that they put out, I think in the 90s, and it had they would take Christmas songs and change the words up.
Okay.
So instead of Deck the Halls, I think it was like Deck the Halls with splats of blood or something like that. They would change it up.
Wasn't there a couple of albums based on Tales from the Crypt?
Yeah, they had another one too. It was more of a metal album, I think. There were
we might have to have Melissa back for that one.
Yeah.
So what was your favorite episode of Tales from the Crypt then? Or have you not gotten to it?
Yeah, if
I've
it's
only
a
got to
big
the end.
reveal for your podcast, we won't.
Oh no, it's
spoil
fine.
it.
I only got to the end of the first season, and the first season's only 6 episodes right now. So the next season is actually 18, which I guess is they finally got the green light to move on. So they're we're going to make all these episodes, because
Right.
I think there's 96 in all. Mm-hmm. And I have to say, one of my favorites that I'm really excited to get to down the road, that I'm wanting to maybe have Mike on too, but there was an episode that had Tim Curry in it.
Okay.
And he plays 3 different characters.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very grotesque. And he basically plays the parents, who are very old, and they like to take different salesmen, invite them into their homes, and kill them if they don't agree to marry their very grotesque, humpback, ugly daughter, also played by Tim Curry. And
amazing.
It's very, yeah. It's yeah. And Ed Begley Jr. plays one of the salesmen who's supposed to fall in love with her, and yeah, so it gets pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's been a while, but I do remember that episode. I loved Tales from the Crypt. I liked anything when I was a teenager, especially that had horror with a bit of comedy. So I was a huge Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness fan, and then Tales from the Crypt and all that kind of stuff. And me and my friends, we used to eat it up, and we would just have marathons, because we had 2 of our buddies that had HBO, and one of them had the massive C-band satellites, the ones that are 16 feet in diameter, that you actually rotate. I don't know if you guys are
I think
old enough to remember.
Old
enough to-
school
Yeah.
satellite C-band, the giant dish in the front yard that went
I remember working for DirecTV and pulling up to somebody's house to do a new install, and then be like, "No, I already got a dish," and they'll walk me back and there's vines and shit growing all over it.
Can you use this disc or dish? It should be good.
Yeah, yeah, sure, buddy. Just go sit on your couch and wait for the TV to come on.
Well, what's funny is that you can still get C-band and KA and KU band stuff. So you can get it direct from the feed still. Which is actually outside of if you go into Central America, that's kind of a big thing because they're able to get U.S. stations down there. The only difference is now I think it's a 22-inch dish that's required. You don't need that massive eyesore.
Right.
This has been the introduction to Jeff's course on C-band dish. You can find all entries in this at discussmetal.com along with his 7.1 audio courses.
Yeah, make sure to email Jeff at discussmetal to get that shit.
Yeah, and the other fun thing about the show too, especially when you're a youth, middle school or so, it was on HBO, so it was a little more risque. They were able to, one of the first episodes I did was in a strip club, and so they were able to put a lot more into the show without restrictions.
Yeah, I remember that, and I remember if I could stay up a little bit later and my parents were asleep, I could go straight from Tales of the Crypt to Dream On. And that,
nice.
And that was a big deal because that was as a adolescent to preteen to teenager, and you get to see boobs on screen. It's especially before the internet was ruined it for this generation. That was a big deal. You're like, oh my god. You didn't know what to think. But yeah, Tales from the Crypt is classic. I love listening to John every time that he laughs. It's just the best thing ever.
Yeah.
It's one of the great sound bites of all generations. You just have to go back and it's that sound, the Crypt Keeper just letting loose.
Can you throw that in, Joe?
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
I guess that towel was a little too hot. Still, I think it's a good look for you. Once it's grown out, I'm sure you'll love it.
You mean like that?
Oh, yeah, that was awesome.
That was awesome, dude.
I'll tell you what, though, you have inspired me. I'm going to go, after we record this episode, I'm going to go watch my favorite episode, which is What's Cooking, which has Meatloaf in it.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one, yeah.
And I actually saw Tales from the Crypt the first time I saw it. It was when Fox was rebroadcasting it at primetime. Had no idea it was edited to get rid of the cable smut,
all the stuff on HBO.
But it was still good. But anyway, that's Tales from the Crypt. Everybody needs to go listen to Tales from the. Sorry, everybody needs to go watch Tales from the Crypt
and listen to the Good Evening.
To her podcast.
Yeah,
and
Good Evening Kiddies podcast.
Yeah, because like I said, I've been watching the episodes before I listened to the podcast, and it's because director commentary tracks and stuff are really popular now. But I feel like this podcast is actually a really good accompaniment to each episode, like an episode guide. So as time goes on, eventually she's going to get through the whole series, and it's going to be the very first time anyone has done that. So
that's awesome.
Has done an actual commentary to each individual episode. So this is definitely something that you want to keep your eye on because it's important not only as a podcast but also as kind of an archival, an actual kind of a preservation, I guess, so to speak.
Well, I'm going to save our plugs for later. Melissa, you want to hang out for a while, talk about Poison the Well?
Sure. Also, one more thing. I think there is one other podcast that did do it.
Oh, really?
They finished a few years ago.
My bad.
No, it's fine. I took a look just in case.
Okay.
But I listened to some of their episodes, and it's definitely not as chronological, and it's more...
a little all over the place.
There's a bunch of people, and they kind of talk all over it. It's fine, but it's just more audio clips.
More like us. We're just all over. We're just all over the damn place.
But yeah, mine's definitely more chronological and gets into, a little more involved in it. But yeah.
Cool.
So... yeah, I guess I'll hang out a little bit. I don't know what I can...
Cool.
Good Evening Kiddies podcast.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth your time. Check it out. And where can they find that podcast, Melissa?
They can find it on Podbean and iTunes.
Okay, cool.
Do you have a website? Or is it just straight on...
I do have just on Podbean, yeah.
Okay.
So, Jeff, tell me all about Poison the Well.
Oh, you're gonna put me on the spot. This is Dan's in the top 10 favorite bands, and you're gonna make me give a
I like
history?
to shake things up every now and then.
Dan's under a lot of stress right now. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have the intimate knowledge that Dan does. I think it's been pretty well established on where most of my music comes from, and it's a little weirder than
Switzerland.
Yes, dude. You better believe it, man.
Yeah.
The Swiss.
I actually,
Side-breeding Cloverfield, man.
I
love
actually
those
have
two.
listened to some Swiss metal. Don't make me name anybody because I can't pronounce any of their names.
It's okay.
But
Just say Avatar. Just say
yeah,
Avatar
I have
over
checked
and
out
over.
some Swiss metal. So I'm gonna go ahead and just sidestep this, so that Jeff doesn't have to feel uncomfortable. Poison the Well is one of the early incarnations of what we would call metalcore now.
Hey, Dan.
Yo, what's up, bro?
Thanks for the save, bud.
Hey, no problem. I got you, buddy. So Poison the Well, hard, like, I guess back when I first started listening to him, I would have called him a hardcore band. But I think that really a lot of what we hear in metalcore now, you can hear a little bit of in Poison the Well. This was like a 1998. What was like kind of their formative time, like 97, 98 was like their formative years. And so these guys were playing metalcore, when really metalcore wasn't really a thing. Because like typically when we say metalcore, what are we thinking? We're thinking like Killswitch Engage,
In Flames.
In Flames.
This is melodic death metal.
I know, but that's what we're thinking.
Correction, Jeff. In Flames was melodic death metal.
Okay.
So
Now it's pop.
now it's like,
We're thinking he is legend.
we did that already, dude. I don't have the time or the mood to go into that.
No,
I want to talk about a band I like. So for a band to sound like this in the late 90s, a little unique in my opinion. I know there was a lot going on in the underground, but as far as bands that actually put records out, Poison the Well was kind of the cream of the crop as far as they were playing this combination of like hardcore and metal with a little bit of like emo in there a little bit. Just a little
I think
bit.
there's some punk influences.
There's
too
some
on
punk
the
there
first
too, sure.
So was this around the same time as Hopes Fall?
Very much.
Because it definitely shows on the first record, which we will get into shortly.
Right. Well, this is like what I would call like pure American metalcore in the sense that it doesn't have any of that Swedish Gothenburg influence to it. Like, not really.
So they don't have the influence of awesomeness. Is that what you're saying?
That's just like your opinion, Jeff.
This is Norma Jean, Hopes Fall.
Before Norma Jean.
It does precede Norma Jean.
It
but
does
it's,
precede the mighty Norma Jean. Yes.
But it is that time frame where, I mean, the saturation of nu metal and the beginning of the early 2000s pop and more popular bands such as Linkin Park, that the hybrid music that happened in the early 2000s, this definitely starts off like one of those bands that was just trying to do the heaviest thing possible. And to quote Dan at a particular band practice, let's just do the heaviest thing possible and then stop. Because this band does it a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of start-stop. So when Poison the Well started, they actually had two singers. Because if you listen to, and if you go on like Spotify or Apple Music or whatever you kids use these days, you can actually hear a demo album called Distance Makes the Heart Grow Fonder. And I actually found this to be more extreme. See, I didn't have that stuff. Obviously back in like 99 or whatever, that was something that was released later on a different label.
Unless you were down in Florida, I think that was probably the only way you could get it.
Right, you could probably get it.
Wasn't it like a 7-inch release or something like that?
It was a 10-inch. Yeah.
Oh, it was a 10? Okay.
Yeah. And it's a shame too that I discovered it so many years later because the material on it's really fucking good. I guess what you're getting with Poison the Well is you're getting passionate, screamed hardcore. And I even hate to use the word metalcore because I don't want anybody to think that we're talking about something that sounds modern, because I don't think that Poison the Well necessarily sounds modern.
This is hardcore that doesn't have
records.
thrash influence.
This is hardcore that basically is just let's play heavy, but they're super, super melodic for what they are, but not melodic like something like Hope's Fall where, we're just going out into the atmosphere. This was just, I think the melody was just there more to accent the lyrics than anything else. And Distance Makes the Heart Grow Fonder was essentially the start for the band. I think that record came out in 98.
Roughly.
Yeah, and it's even a stretch calling it a record because it's really more of just a demo. And they actually had 2 singers. And the thing that I find the most notable about it is that it really has all the ingredients for what we're going to hear from Poison the Well throughout at the very least, their next 3 albums. And you have heartfelt, screamed vocals with passionate lyrics. You have a lot of melodic guitar work with breakdowns thrown in there just to keep everybody interested. And there's also vocally, there was a lot of spoken word sections. That's the point in the song where my wife says, "Why is he talking? Why isn't he just screaming?" And they do a lot of that. And literally all of those ingredients are present on Distance Makes the Heart Grow Fonder. And it's actually a different lead vocalist than would be on their debut, The Opposite of December.
Before we get into The Opposite of December, I'm going to take this time to say thank you to everyone that is listening to this podcast. Thank you for listening and for subscribing. If you are not a subscriber, you can find everything Discography Discussion at discussmetal.com. We are on Google Play. We are on iTunes. We are on Stitcher. We are on TuneIn Radio. So if you have an Amazon Echo product, you can say to it, "Alexa, play the latest episode of Discography Discussion," and she will. We're also on Facebook and on Twitter at Discuss Metal. Be sure to like, favorite, and subscribe. It really helps us out. It lets us know you're listening. And Jeff is going to tell us all about 5-star reviews.
We love 5-star reviews, but truthfully, we dislike reviews. The more you review us, the more notoriety we get. Even if it means you think we suck, we're okay with that.
If you think we suck, tell us why we suck so we can try to get better.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely read it on the show.
Yeah, we will. And we don't mind, people telling us we suck. I mean, we were all nerds in school, so we've had plenty of people tell us that we're terrible. So
yeah, how else can you improve?
We'll take it. Constructive criticism preferred.
Constructive criticism?
Yeah, I know. Maybe I had a few too many.
Between this Elysian space dust and high brew coffee, I'm having a good day.
Oh, I've been having Schlafly coffee stout because I
Dan
got
is
it.
jealous.
Oh, he mixed it. Got the alcohol and the coffee.
Woohoo!
Yep, they were 80 cents a bottle, so I couldn't pass that up.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is.
The Opposite of December, 1999. All hail the triggered bass drum. Melissa, am I right?
Hell yeah.
Okay, so yeah, maybe. Okay. Way to just, throw that out there.
It's the first thing I heard, honestly.
Yes, the bass drums are triggered.
It was a thing that happened at some point and still kind of happens sometimes in metal.
If it sounds good, then it's not a big deal. But I have heard some albums where it's like it's just click, 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 like real. That's all you hear.
It's pretty obvious.
But like
stands
out compared to like the guitar and everything. It just.
But I'm not here to talk about that because I'm not a piece of shit musician. So
he's a piece of shit vocalist.
I'm a piece of shit singer, and so as long as those vocals sound good, I'm good.
Would you say that Poison the Well was like an influence on how you scream?
Huge, yeah.
Yeah.
Poison the Well, Hope's Fall, Zao again because it deserves 2 entries.
Okay then. Yeah, definitely a huge influence on me as a screamer. What I liked about Poison the Well is that actually a lot of the bands that were out at that time were more of a rasp scream. That was the big thing in metalcore for a while, was the vocal that sounded like this versus just a guy screaming, and I love that. And when I first started screaming, that's what I wanted to do. Was I wanted to have that raspy serpentine type of vocal. But Poison the Well kind of really brought me into the fold as far as like This was like really guttural, passionate screaming with lyrics that I agreed with, and I think they were just for what I guess it all really just boils down to personal preference, but there was just something about the way Poison the Well screamed that just resonated with me more so than the raspy vocal. I thought maybe it was a little bit better at conveying emotion.
Yeah, he's believable.
Yeah, at least for me.
No, I completely agree. Their early stuff I think is fantastic.
It really is. And this record, the one opposite of December, it's a quick burn. It's a quick cigarette, but on a lunch break. It's 30 minutes in and out, but you're gonna feel better whenever you're done listening to it. Lyrics are extremely sappy, a little more emo. Hey, if you read the lyrics without hearing the band, you'd be pretty surprised, I think, when you heard the band.
I don't know. The vocals sound pretty pained in some of it. So I mean, are the lyrics a little more emotional in the sense of pain?
Yeah, that is. It's of course it's like, I'm 15 and my girlfriend, my girlfriend decided she wanted to be girlfriend of someone else.
Hey, at 15, that's pain.
It is, and you can really hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember punching my locker over girls in 15. Yeah.
How does that Weezer song go? My girlfriend wants to be another girlfriend's girlfriend. I forget.
Yeah. So
might be my version.
It's one of those things where this band really, really hits how I was feeling at the time this came out. This was, this is 1999. I'm sorry, I'm such a fanboy about this that it's really hard.
It's okay, you can let it out.
To articulate.
Just don't go full fanboy.
Right. This was, like anybody that's ever heard me sing or play or whatever, and thought that I was cool original. I'm not, man. Like you can find all of it on this record. Well, literally all of it. The spoken word vocals, the screams, everything. There's just something just really awesome about screaming over melodic, heavy riffs, and this record has that in spades. The only thing I think it's a little harder for me to get into as an adult, because a lot of the lyrics deal with just like relational problems. And they were problems that I was definitely having and could relate to back then.
Wasn't that the symptom of early hardcore, though? It was all about relationships.
Yeah, dude.
So I got to ask you, Dan.
Yeah, what's up, bro?
Does that mean you like to emulate Jeff?
What do you mean?
Well, Jeff, that's the lead singer.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm just having a little fun since I'm a Jeff and he's a Jeff. And
no, I know what you're trying to do. I'm just making it
It's safe to say
for you.
that Dan is heavily influenced by Jeff and
Yes.
Dan.
Yeah. My two favorite singers are Jeff and Dan. That's funny. I never even thought about that before. But
Does it change you as a person?
no, it doesn't.
It should.
I'm just a carbon copy of what I consume. So
now I know how I got the gig.
right.
It's a very punk mentality to be upfront with your lyrics. There's nothing pop sensible about it. So where punk was play fast and be dysfunctional and be in your face and offensive, this is be loud, be heavy, be in your face, and not really be offensive, at least as far as Poison the Well goes. I know other hardcore bands subscribe to that, but they're very much, this is how I'm feeling.
Here's what I like about stuff like Poison the Well and Hope's Fall and stuff in that same vein, is that this was heavy music that wasn't being made by tough guys. This isn't like Pantera, you better walk on homeboy, oh no way punk,
This isn't Limp Bizkit.
It's not like I'm gonna
rolling.
break your fucking face tonight. It's not like that. This is a real person that you can identify with, but because you like heavy tunes, you get that too. And that's bands like this are the reason why I'm just not a big fan of like tough guy music. And
You didn't ever want to break someone's face?
right. No, I have definitely wanted to break someone's face before, but
But he was feeling it all on the inside
but I'm
when
feeling
he did
it. Yeah. But I can but I can
But he
give
didn't
you
want to
the
break
reasons
somebody's
why.
face because Phil told him he needed to break somebody's face.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like these guys because prior to Poison the Well coming out, I had a real strong emo background. I mean,
Go ahead and tell me about your favorites from the 90s, Jeff.
yeah, I know. Well, I won't, other than Sunny Day Real Estate.
I
'cause
was
everybody
waiting
knows
for it.
that. I got to put that on every damn episode. But yeah, this was like, Diary turned up to 11 for me. So I loved these guys early on. I thought they were fantastic. And this is an easy episode to do because I know Dan and I both dig these guys. So their early stuff is just something that everybody needs to check out.
Yeah, I really like the song Nerdy a lot. It's one of the standout songs for me. And again, there's nothing tough about it. It's like, why do your eyes paralyze me? Like, it's such a oh man, I love her, but she doesn't even know I exist. And it's like if this came out in 2000, if this record had come out 6 years later, it would be considered generic and trite. But in the context of when it was released, it sounded completely legitimate and completely understandable.
I definitely love me some My Mirror No Longer Reflects.
Dude, that song, when he stops screaming and just stops, he's like, smash me to the ground 1,000 times as before, but I can't rationalize anymore. Oh my God, that song kicks my ass.
It's the definition of a super fan who steps in with lyrics when you're talking about a song. And I almost had a Jeff moment where I was going to tell you about the atmosphere and the feel of the song, but Dan has overwhelmed me with his lyrical amazingness.
You can do that now.
Oh no, it's all about the lyrics now. Because
well, yeah, dude, I want to wish for wings that work. There's a pause, where it's track 2. There's a pause where he just goes in and
that's Dan code for play track 2 now.
Oh my God, he's like, I could never swallow your false ideals of a lifeless happy ending. And it just, oh my God, that was one of the very first things about the band that caught me. And I don't really have a lot of bad things to say about this record. It's so short, it's kind of hard to fuck up, right?
I kind of have the same mentality about it as I do the Satellite Years. I don't know if it's perfect, but it as what it is perfect.
Yeah, it's damn close to perfect if it's not. The only thing I can say about it that I could criticize is maybe the melodic singing just wasn't there.
Yeah, not yet.
That guy could sing about as well as I can now. It's
that's a slide rule if I've ever heard one.
It's narrow. Well, it's it's nasally. It sounds a little emo. But back in 1999, nobody was getting criticized for that.
And it was probably the best he could do.
And it was really, and again, it was passionate.
What's wrong with nasally and emo?
Nothing.
See, I was kind of thinking that too, in a way, if their lyrics were the way they are.
Just makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dan is definitely the lyric god. He analyzes and overanalyzes all the lyrics. And I'm just on the complete other end of the spectrum. I'm looking for the emotion of whatever it is.
Do I get to say it?
Yes, go for it.
You are now entering Jeffrey's atmosphere. I don't know. I was
Jeffrey, I think I'm in trouble.
I was expecting the atmosphere to start on the next record. So are we moving on to Tear from the Red?
Absolutely.
Yeah, now this is my favorite album, and it's not even close.
Really?
It's not even close. I listened to this album like 6 times today.
Oh my God, dude. This record is... I mean, in a purely unbiased way, it's the same record as the other one. But much more focus on melody here than what we'd had before. The singing's better. It's one of those things where it's like they did the same thing again, only better. If that makes sense. They wrote better songs.
They did.
Oh my God, dude. Botchla.
I definitely get the feeling from listening to Tear from the Red I get the same feeling I got the first time I heard Magnetic North after listening to the Satellite Years. It's just that, again, only we turned it up to 17. We're not even stopping at 11. It's just the same thing, only better.
Yeah, I mean, this record, again, like lyrically, it's pretty much the exact same record as the previous. But musically, there's much more focus on melody over aggression, or not necessarily aggression, but more melody over just heavy riffs. And it does create a, here we go, trademark atmosphere.
You're now entering Daniel's atmosphere.
that the other record, well, that the Opposite of December didn't really have. I mean, again, I don't have anything bad to say about that record, but I can't fault it for not being this record.
Well, you were saying that both records are fairly similar, but I mean, has this one got a little more length to it? Like, is this
no, they're the same length. Yeah, like I couldn't be more honest about them essentially being the same record, because they were actually recently re-released as the same record.
That's what I've got.
Yeah, like there's a double. There's an actual LP. You can fit both records on one LP.
Sounds like System of a Down.
Yeah.
Oh, did I just say that?
Yeah. So. I know Jeff's got a lot to say, so I want to shut the fuck up as soon as I can, but
that's a lie,
that's okay.
and you know it.
But I mean, like, the singing's better, the melodies are more apparent, but it doesn't sound commercial. Like, it still sounds like a legitimate, we wanted to get better, not somebody was pushing us to be more commercial, because these songs are much more are very much in the same vein of being heartfelt and real. Like songs like Botchla, we just start to just like, but I adore her, this will never happen, like, and how just bust into him just basically, he's screaming, it almost sounds like he's crying, he's like, but I adore her, I mean, it was just, Botchla is just one of my favorite songs to play in the basement alone, and
that's where I've been all day. Maybe that's why I've been listening to this album nonstop.
I did notice that this record was a little bit more aggressive lyrically than on The Opposite of December. Was very much, again, like Why Do Your Eyes Paralyze Me and all this stuff. This is the part of puberty I think that they hit, in that they're a little bit more aggressive about these topics. So instead of being like, to mandate heaven, a wish for wings that work.
It definitely feels less tolerant.
It is. It's more. He starts off. Lazaro. You said you missed me, but what about the demons in my head? I'm sure you don't miss them. That's
wow.
Yeah. So like that. It's a little bit scarier, I guess, than it was before. They even have a song called Horns and Tails on there, which is like, what would I do for just one more day without you? And there's a really funny part in that song too, where he's like, all I wanted to say was, and then they like, way in the background, it sounds like 10 miles away, you hear him just scream, fuck yeah! And oh man, that was so cool. I loved that song.
Dude, I don't know about you, but I'm going to sit here and listen to Rings from Corona.
Oh, that's a good one.
And I'm going to let Jeff just let it out.
Dude, the breakdown on that song is just devastating.
3, 2, 1, take it, man.
Well, it's pretty simple. I have the same recipe, for everything that I'm looking for. The quote-unquote Jeff's atmosphere, yes. That, and I have to be able to listen to it from cover to cover. And this album completely encompasses it, and the fact that it's only a half hour makes it easier to go back and re-listen to it back to back. So, because we go from Swallow the Sun, where we have like 3-hour albums, and now we have 30-minute albums.
Yeah, dude, that's
good music is. Okay, yeah, but good music is good music. I mean, if you like it, you like it, and that's what I always tell everybody. I'm like, listen for yourself. Don't listen for anybody else. And if you enjoy it, just crank it up and listen to it as much as you want. And that's why I like this album. Like you said, there's a little more substance to it. It's like they polished up from their freshman effort, and they didn't have a sophomore slump. I mean, this is a great album. I listened to it a lot this week, and especially today. I'm not kidding when I said I listened to it like 6 times today.
Yeah.
Because I've been cleaning out my basement. So it's enough of a kick in the pants to get you going, but there's enough melody and clean singing. You know, I'm a pretty emotional guy, so I like the roller coasters that they take you on. I think that's really, really important in music, and I think that's why I like the contrasting styles between, you know, the hardcore and the melodic and the clean vocals and the screaming, and that's why there's so much appeal to bands like this to me. It's the whole package, and I actually like the fact that, you know, they kind of, you know, they still have a bit of their punk sensibilities, you know, and a lot of these songs are pretty short. They're not looking, you know, for this epic, you know, 15-minute Dream Theater-esque, you know, look at me and see how good I can play. They're just like, you know, this is what we feel and this is what we're giving you.
Yeah, it's music that's not up its own ass, you know.
Not yet.
Well, the shorter albums can be kind of nice too, because if you got a half hour, you can kind of have an experience. Mm-hmm. You know, you listen from track 1 to the end, and just everything flows. I kind of think song order is important in a lot of ways. If they can make one where it just flows real well.
Yeah, and that's something I was going to bring up too, is that this record flows better than the opposite of December. And I'm always like, I hold that first record in such high regard that anytime I'm saying something positive about the next record, I feel like I'm saying that wasn't there on the first record wasn't as good. But the first
because
record,
it wasn't.
The first record was a collection of hardcore songs. You know what I mean? And the second record was a collection of hardcore songs with an actual map. You know? And the placement of songs in Tear from the Red was just phenomenal. They did a really great job.
I have always been the track listing guy. Not that I change records, but whenever I'm creating music, I've always said the order is important. And our good buddy Brandon Kellum has pointed out many times, as far as the way they make records, rather than give you 60 minutes and half of it is good, let's just give you the half that's good. Get in, get out, and that's it.
Right.
And this is definitely, we're not going to hang out for 2 hours and play a bunch of songs that are mediocre. We're going to give you our best 30 minutes, and we're going to get off the stage.
Right.
And that started, I mean, it's a punk mentality that started many years ago, but it kind of resurged. It kind of resurfaced in the late 90s and found its way into the mid to late 2000s, and even today the bands have really latched onto that. And it's not about the crap, it's not about look at me and how good I can play, it's look at how awesome we are.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I love technical music, I also like a music that I feel like is honest, and Boys in the Well has that in spades, even on their later releases that don't necessarily sound like this.
So I think it's time for You Come Before You.
Yeah, I was going to say, before we start that record, can I take a beer break real quick?
I mean, if you absolutely insist, you go right ahead.
All right, sounds good, man.
So, Dan, you're going to be kind of sort of proud of me.
Okay.
I got on the bike. It still might have training wheels on it.
Okay.
But I'm having a dry hopped APA.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, before we get going here, you guys want to hear a fun bathroom story?
Hell yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
So Joe has a bidet.
This is going on the show, by the way.
That's fine. I don't care. Joe has a bidet, and I've never used one of those. Thought I'd try it out for like a second. I've never had an enema before, but I feel like it's something like that. And
damn.
I think it scared me because I got up and was going to leave, and I realized I didn't pee.
You Come Before You.
All right, so side story.
Good album.
Side story here. I have been at work. Well, I worked from 10:30 a.m. on Friday night until 1:30 p.m. Saturday afternoon. I had to drive to several different places, and the entire time I was driving, I was listening to You Come Before You by Poison the Well.
Is it a terrible thing for me to say this sounds like an Atlantic Records hardcore band?
I don't think so.
Because that's who released this record.
I don't think this is any different, honestly.
No, it's not. Maybe just a little more polished. But back to Dan's side story. This is what I got in the middle of the... Well, it was about 10 o'clock. 9:30 to be exact. I'm having the worst day of my fucking life today. And I'm like, oh my God. Somebody died. I'm like, his wife left him. I'm like, oh shit. And he's like, no, I've just been working for 20 some odd hours. I'm like, oh shit, that sucks, but are you okay? Dude, I was so freaking out. I was like, oh my God. Okay. He's like, I thought I was going to have to like go pick him up and console him and do the friend thing. I was freaking out, and I was like, nope, he's just delirious because he's been working for too damn long.
Yep.
It was one of those 36-hour days.
Okay, so let's start with Ghost Chant. Holy shit, does this song just jump in out of the gate?
I feel the same way I felt the first time I heard Bring Out the Rum, Bring Out the Rum.
This is the same band, but with a budget. This shit sounds insane. It captures the heaviness of the band in a way that has never been captured on audio before.
Yeah, and what's really weird is I'm always the one that likes the almost to the point of being overproduced. For this type of band, I actually like the rawness of the previous two albums as compared to the polish that's on this. And I'm probably in the minority when it comes to that. But for whatever reason, I mean, it's still good. It's still great. It's the last good album that they did. But I just couldn't. I didn't like it as much as the other two because to me, it was almost like they had too big of a budget. Like I like the cheap punk counterculture feel to the first two. I really, really dig that. And I think that suits them well. But you're going to tell me why I'm wrong, right, Dan?
Absolutely. You're completely wrong because this is my favorite Poison the Well record. And I love the other two like 150%. It's just that this record is so much heavier. Like Melissa, you asked me earlier if the screams for Poison the Well influenced me as a screamer.
Yeah.
But the shit that I do is much closer to what is on here.
Oh, okay.
Than what was on the first two records. It's more of a hardcore, more of a deeper hardcore scream, whereas the other records were a little bit more emotional. This is just guttural.
More throaty.
Yeah, it's intense. But on the flip side, the actual melodic singing, 500% better.
So who took vocal lessons? That's my question.
I do agree with that.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely there was a vocal coach involved. I am certain of that.
Yeah, the melodic singing is actually really, really good. The clean singing is stellar.
Yeah.
If there is one thing I do like more about this album as compared to the past two, it is that.
Yeah. I feel like the sing scream dynamic is upheld more here than they did on the regular. I mean, they sang on the other records too, but like it wasn't like a verse chorus verse thing like it is here. And again, this record is absolutely the product of corporate meddling. I think the band wrote the record, and then a producer came in and was like, "Well, you need to sing and scream here. You need to, and they really did. They really did that. Ever since everybody heard Slipknot's "Wait and Bleed" back in the day, they decided that every heavy band had to have this dynamic of a sing scream, and it'd be quantized and packaged up and its own deal. And that's very evident on this record. This is a very poppy Poison the Well record, and I would love to say that I hate it for that, but I don't.
I get the feeling somebody listened to Hope's Fall and said, we need to make it sound like that. And then that was what everybody said for about 5 years.
Yeah, possible.
And it started here.
I don't think so, but
it didn't get so budgetized quite yet, but this is kind of where it starts. This might have been the peak of their sound.
Yeah, it was, and I think this record. First of all, let me just take a couple of moments to point out some of my favorite lyrics on this record.
Do they include "Meeting Again" for the first time?
Yes. Well, yeah, I think at the beginning of that song he says "barely able to keep the lids open," which I can very much relate to.
Especially right now.
Right.
You got 2 more after this, so we'll get through it.
Oh, dude. The first song, he's like, how many times do I have to throw the switch to warn you about jumping in the back of the cars? The second song, he's like, stare across from you. Why are we even here? There is no way to make up for these 20 years. Like, these songs are still very emotional, but they're a little bit more mature than what we'd had on the previous records, where record 1 was My Girlfriend is So Great, but she's not really my girlfriend. I really want her to be. The second record was, I Hate That Bitch. And then the third record is like, these are actual like real world people problems I'm having. There's a song about reuniting with a loved one, or trying to reconcile with a loved one, and there aren't a whole lot of like love songs. Like, a lot of the lyrics talk about depression. On one song at the end, he just screams, "I just want to be fucking happy." Meaning again for the first time, his happiness is not having to. Then he's like, lying on the floor dead alone. Like, I don't know, man. Like, this record is just full of maybe shit that like I'm going through more as an adult now. But there's nothing, gentlemen, that can top the beauty of the closing track, Crystal Lake.
Now, it's October.
Which is my...
I mean, yesterday was Friday the 13th.
Which is, of all time, my favorite Poison the Well song.
And why is that?
Oh my God. The lyrics are fucking on point. Overheard your conversation tonight, and I'm not satisfied. Sitting here, I realize I always think I'm right. So now it's over for all of you. And as it goes, you definitely get the impression that he is killing people and throwing them into a lake. In the final breakdown, he's like, stare at me now, on your way down. Stare at me now, on your way down. This is my pissed off song. This is my go-to song anytime I need to wake up. So needless to say, I have been listening to this song a lot in the past 28 hours. Okay? This song is amazing. The guitar work is amazing. The pace of the song is amazing. There is literally no clean singing on this song at all, which is fantastic.
Now we really know why Dan likes it.
No, I love the clean singing with Poison the Well. This song doesn't have it. This is Ghost Chant is one of the best album openers I've ever heard, and Crystal Lake is one of the best album closers I've ever heard. People may have varying opinions on what's between those two pieces of bread, but I think it makes a mighty good sandwich.
I don't know how you're going to top that on versions.
You're not.
We've got 2 records to go.
So
these last 2, I think, are going to go a little quicker than the first few.
Oh, they definitely are.
So are we gonna hop right in?
Yeah, we can go to versions if you want.
2007 versions. Jeff, I'm afraid.
No, well, yeah, there's a dynamic shift here, and it's because one of the primary writers in the band is no longer with the band.
Right.
And that, unfortunately, I think if I remember correctly, while they were in the process of making this album, he left right in the middle of it. And just like, I don't know why he quit, but I know he quit. I don't know if it was, creative differences, because I know everything that he did, they scrapped and then they started from scratch. And they didn't. One of the things that I've read while perusing the internet, but you got to take with a grain of salt, was they didn't like the direction that he was leading in them. And I'm like, well, if the direction was where the last two albums were, I think it was a pretty damn good direction. And they took a right turn when they should have kept on going straight, if you ask me.
Now, the fact that they got rid of all his stuff, does that mean there was maybe something like legal over like the copyright of his work, or?
I'm pretty sure it was just a dick move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, screw that guy.
Yeah, I think it was more of a fuck you than
like we don't even want it at all.
You left right in the middle of the process. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of how they looked at it. I mean, I'd be pissed off if somebody did that to me. But you're right. There could be some sort of legality behind it too, where he owns those rights and he does it. Maybe he's the one that pulled the dick move and said, "Hey, I don't want you guys touching my stuff. I'm not in the band anymore. That's my music. My name is on it. You can't use it legally," or something like that.
You said he was the lyricist, or just the writer of the
Well, he was
the
rhythm guitarist, right, Dan?
Yes, but here's the thing.
Sounds like Dave Mustaine about it.
No, because we have no idea what happened with that break.
That's
it
true.
It could have been a completely amicable break. It's not a huge thing. I think no matter what, this record would have sounded like it sounds anyway, or it would have been still a huge dynamic shift, because I do know that the band did have issues with Atlantic Records, because this was not released by Atlantic Records, and this was also released, I believe, like a good 4 years after You Come Before You.
That is correct.
So this was more of like a return for the band, because You Come Before You was what, 03, and this was like 07 or 09.
2007 was Versions.
7.
The Tropic Riot came out in 2009.
2009.
Yeah,
both by Ferret Records.
Yeah, so obviously, they've kind of gone back to where they were before in the sense of being on smaller labels. Versions is a weird record because there was no transitional record between You Come Before You and this. And in a lot of ways, I could almost see listening to the Tropic Rot like in between You Come Before You and this record. I feel like this one really just goes out into space after a while. It's very melodic. It's not really a hardcore record.
Oh, you're taking us out into space now,
It's
are
passionate. It's passionate, but it's different. It's not the same type of passion, and I think that's what bothers me about it. Is this is a little bit more artsy fartsy, and a little bit less, raw guttural emotion. And unfortunately, that's the reason I listen to Poison the Well, is for that raw guttural emotion.
It's the 2000s version of punk rock. It's all about emotion.
I mean, and it's in there. Like, in no way am I saying that Versions is a bad record, but it's not my go-to when I'm thinking of, like, I want to listen to Poison the Well. I'm going to listen to one of those 3 first records.
Yeah, hands down. I'd say this is, at best, in my opinion, this is an average entry.
It's definitely my least favorite of their 5.
I'm with you on that. It is definitely my least favorite.
I agree.
I've said it multiple times. I don't mind people taking, a complete, 90-degree turn and going off in a different direction of what we thought they were going to do, as long as they do it well, as long as they can pull it off. And that's just not the case here. I mean, we've mentioned it, we've beaten that dead horse called Contortionist to death. They totally change styles, and it's fan-fucking-tastic.
Mm-hmm.
But this is not. This is just, It's not bad, but I also don't think it's good.
It sounds like You Come Before You was a glass of water, and Versions is like that glass of water poured out all over the kitchen floor.
So you're saying that versions is look at this puddle of water I made.
The elements are all there that were on You Come Before You, but it's done in a much more spread out way. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
There's not enough meat there.
Right. It's not enjoyable because when that water was in the glass, it was in a more compressed, consumable form. And it's not as much on this record. And I still do like versions, but I don't love it.
Do you have any standout tracks on it, Dan?
Not really, man.
I don't either. I tried, and then I just couldn't do it on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I
know that sounds bad, but
I'll throw a couple onto the playlist. But yeah, for the most part, I'm kind of I'm a little indifferent on it.
So
that was quick.
Next record?
The Tropic Rot.
Yeah, the Tropic Rot. I thought this one was a little bit more of a return to form.
I would agree, but it's just not. You're not completely back. You know, after there was such a right turn, I was actually kind of hoping that they would actually stick to their guns and find a way to make it work instead of trying to go back, to going back to the well, so to speak. I wish that wasn't the case. Whenever you do try something different, that's okay. Try to work through it, try to figure it out, and you have a new sound. Just don't go back to the old because the new one just didn't work that for the one album.
Right. Well, it's okay. I don't necessarily think that the Tropic Rot sounds like Poison the Well. At least they don't sound like the Poison the Well that I'm into.
Right. I do like Exist Underground, though.
It definitely does sound like Poison the Well. It sounds like the same Poison the Well that put out Versions. But it's like a better version of the Versions band.
Yeah, it's kind of a tweener. I think it's merging the two.
And it almost sounds like I said earlier that this record should have come before Versions.
Well, that's why I say that. I think it's like you said, it still has Versions, but it's got stuff from the previous 3 albums on it as well.
Right.
I like that name, Tropic Rot. Is that one of the songs on the album, or is that something they came up with themselves?
No.
Yeah, I don't think there's any songs on the album.
There's no title track.
Okay.
That is a clever name.
Yeah, and it's great. There's an elephant on the CD.
Nice.
Yeah, I love it. I listened to the Tropic Rot a lot when it came out.
Sparks It Will Rain, Cinema.
I like Antarctica Inside Me is one of my favorite.
That sounds painful.
It definitely sounds cold.
The cold inside me.
Yeah, no, it definitely sounds cold. But no, I don't know, man. The Tropic Rot's a really good record. It's really solid. I just don't love it like I love the first 3. And I don't think that Poison the Well has ever put out an album that I'm like, this is shit, skip it. It's just kind of a weird slump that I don't know. Slump's
I don't
not
know.
the right word.
Version's awfully close to skip for me.
Really? You'd think it's that bad?
I really do. I
don't think there's anything bad about it at all. I just don't love it.
It's just meh. That's how I feel about it. It's not bad, but
it's a thing that exists. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes when stuff is just so bad, you kind of like have the train wreck issue where you keep staring at it when something's so bad.
Sure.
But yeah, it's average, and the Tropic Rot is a little bit above average. The problem is that the first 3 were
really above average.
We're awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. This was 2009, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, what bands were out at this time that were doing this style only better?
I mean, I think it's kind of hard to nail down this style.
Hardcore.
Because I still feel like
pure hardcore.
I don't think this is pure hardcore. This is like this is a hardcore band trying to play experimental music.
Red?
I don't think it sounds like Red. What are you talking about? This doesn't sound anything like Breaking Benjamin.
Oh, shit.
I shed a tear from the Red. Yeah, I don't know, man.
It's good. It's not great.
I think it's good too. I mean, and I
I
don't think
listened
it's
to it 17 times.
I don't think it's all that different than Magnetic North. You know, stylistically, in that it's and again, I love Magnetic North. And I don't love these records as much, but I feel like it's the same idea of like, I'm not going into this. I think I was initially disappointed because it didn't sound like the previous records did. And I understand too that for certain people that if they're prepping up for this or they haven't listened to the band a whole lot beforehand, you know, it's very jarring to hear it all at once versus hearing it happen over time like I did. You know, I mean, I waited for these records to come out, you know.
So this was another one of those, at the time, it was exactly what I needed.
No, at the time, I fucking hated it. But over time, I've come to appreciate the records for what they are versus what my expectation of them was. So that's why I'm giving them so much credit.
I'm going to kind of cheat and sneak my final thoughts in now because it's appropriate. If Hopes Fall is the band that's sending us into orbit, Poison the Well is kind of the band that's hanging out on the space station just jamming.
Yeah.
Like, we're here,
They'll buy you
but
the
we're
beers.
indoors. You know what I mean?
I just think that these are good records, but they're not exactly like why I listen to Poison the Well.
So why do you listen to Poison the Well?
I listen to Poison the Well for intensity, passion, and guttural, heartfelt screaming.
Do you get that more from the first 3 albums?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
So
In spades.
what is your favorite Poison the Well record then?
Oh, you already said.
It's my favorite is actually You Come Before You.
What about you, Jeff?
I'm pretty much with Dan. The first 3 albums are damn near masterpieces for the type of music that they were looking to create. I really, really like the emotion. I mean, it's like we said earlier. I mean, it's got a bit of an emo feel to it, and I like that. I want music to move me, and I feel moved on the first 3. The last 2, not so much. But that's okay. You know, that's why there's this thing called a discography, and that's why we have this podcast. We always get to go back to what it is that we like if there's other, albums that we don't particularly care for.
What's your final thoughts, Dan?
Well, I think that Poison the Well, and again, because I'm a fanboy, I'm still gonna defend Versions and the Tropic Rot and say that they're still really good records. Because like when a band that I love puts out a record that I don't love as much, I still like it more than I liked any other release that year. Because I'm that kind of guy. And there's nothing on Versions or on the Tropic Rot that I would say, this is shit, get rid of this, get rid of that. You know, it's a conscious decision that the band made to go in that direction. And some days I have more respect for it than I do other days. That's my final thought.
Melissa?
Well, I did notice here that they went on hiatus in 2010.
Yes.
But they came back for some reunion shows in 2015 and 2016. Did you guys ever check any of that out?
Unfortunately, I could never attend any of the shows.
Or even just like recorded video or anything?
No, YouTube probably would be my friend on that.
Yeah.
I know they did play a lot of the older songs for those, which might mean something.
I think that Poison the Well is a good baseline for hardcore. Especially the early records are phenomenal in my opinion. I think if Super Mario Brothers is the first game anybody ever played, and you keep going back to it, not just because it's the first game, but because it's great, Poison the Well might be that hardcore band that you just go back to remind yourself why you like hardcore.
Word.
And what's your album of the week, Jeff?
Oh, Subway Gods by Too Many Zoos. There is a saxophone, a trumpet,
Douche,
and a drummer, and no vocals for the most part. I mean, they have guest vocalists on there. I love that shit. It doesn't, I know it's not metal, but my God, that stuff is great. And what's funny is they they now are on a Google commercial. So I guess they've hit the big time. But yeah, I love those guys. I've been following them ever since they went viral on YouTube with their New York subway stuff, where they were recorded playing live down in the subway, and I've loved them ever since.
Well, since one of my favorite drum friends is in the room, I'm going to say Overcome by All That Remains. Not because it's great, because the drums are just fun.
It's really not great.
Can I do an album of the week?
You absolutely have
Absolutely.
Yeah, what do you got?
I'm gonna say The Kills' Midnight Boom. It's a duo of like a guy who does a lot of the guitar and vocals, and then they kind of have some programmed drums and things like that. But the singer is a female. She went on to be in Dead Weather, which is one of Jack White's side projects.
I love me
Okay,
some
cool.
Dead Weather.
So,
Yeah.
it's pretty fun.
Whatever happened to Meg, seriously?
I think she's okay now, but I know she had some like mental problems when they were on tour.
Don't
a little
we
bit,
all?
some stress and things like that. But I think she's okay now.
Dan, what about
At least I
you?
hope so.
Well, I've been listening to If the Flames Don't Kill Us, We Will by A Jealousy Issue. And here's the thing about that. Do you remember how Poison the Well had a different singer on Distance Makes the Heart Grow Fonder?
I do.
Well, this other band is his band.
And everybody needs to go check that out?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I think Dan has had enough. Melissa, you need to come back more often.
Oh, okay.
Now that you're an established, guest,
Sure.
the door is always open.
All right.
So we're going to be giving you
Well-
a full rundown of the bands that we listen to.
Yeah, let me know. Let me know some of the future bands. Maybe I'll come back if it's one that strikes my
cool.
fancy.
Yeah.
Or you can pick one out yourself.
I don't know. I got to stick with the metal, right? So,
Well, yeah, you're going to have to get it by
Yeah.
me. But, yeah.
and there's so many genres of metal. So I guess I have a lot of options.
We should talk about that sometime.
Oh,
Yes.
no, we
All
should
the
not.
genres of
No.
metal. A 19-hour podcast brought to you by Discuss Metal. Yeah.
Every time I do, if with anyone, unfortunately, you find out a new genre that you had no idea existed.
Yeah.
Like, I think you just made that one up.
The asshole genre.
And on that note, this has been episode 34 of Discography Discussion. Thank you for listening. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Discuss Metal. Subscribe to our podcast everywhere you listen to podcasts, including Google Play, iTunes, and Stitcher. Visit discussmetal.com for all things discography discussion. And please send questions and comments to danandjoeshow@gmail.com. If you are not a patron, you can become one at patreon.com/discussmetal. We have some sweet perks.
Give me your money!
Good Evening Kiddies can be found at goodeveningpod.podbean.com.
That's right.
We'll see you guys next week.
Deuces.
I got my